Earlier this year, I finished reading The Brothers Karamazov, and very soon after I finished reading it, I realized that I wasn't entirely ready to sever myself from the text or quit interacting with the story because it's just so masterfully written. I think that feeling is a real testament to Dostoevsky's work that he put into his final story. What he does really well, in my opinion, in kind of all of his works, but specifically in this one, is that he captures the human heart in these kind of snapshots of emotional tumult. And I feel like for me, maybe for others who finish this book, just because, like the last page is complete, you don't necessarily step away from the story feeling like, oh, I'm done with that, I never want to think about it again. That's kind of the mode I found myself in once I finished it. So I did a lot of research online, looking up lectures for the Brothers Karamazov and just resources to kind of understand different takes on it, and so I wanted to include those in this video. So if you're like me and you're interested in learning more about the story through a professor's lens or through a theological lens, or even you want each chapter broken down, I'll just include the resources that I found helpful, interesting, and it just helped me as the reader kind of go deeper into the story to delve into the themes that Dostoevsky was conveying in the story. So the first one that I found, her name is Jessica Wilson, and I believe she's a professor, and she kind of covers each chapter of the story or each section in a theological lens. So if you're not super familiar with the Russian Orthodox Church or the religion as it was at that time in Russia, this would probably be really helpful. Background information is always helpful whenever you're reading a new story. She does delve into historical context with that. And I found her after I finished the story. I didn't have too much trouble understanding the theological side of it because I was raised Catholic, which is, in my opinion, adjacent to kind of the theology of the story, The Brothers Karamazov. So Alyosha was really easy for me to understand and to empathize what his personal struggles were. If that's not you, then I really recommend checking out her videos. She makes it really easy to understand. So the next one I had to go to the Internet Archives to find. It's a college level lecture on the Brothers Karamazov, but it begins with Soren Kierkegaard, and it talks about existentialism. So we begin with kind of that, and then it bleeds into the Brothers Karamazov, how existentialism is kind of woven into the story. It's very interesting, very structured. The professor begins by talking about the importance of the characters' names in the Brothers Karamazov, which I found really interesting, and how each of them, the importance of kind of nicknames and familiarity with the names. So for Dmitri, we know him as Dmitri, but half the time he's known as Mitya, and Alyosha is also known as Alexei, but we don't really know him as that. It's not as often as Dimitri's, so this interchangeability of names, it's showing familiarity. And with Ivan, there was also Vanka, but we don't really hear that as well throughout the story. And with Smirkov, we don't get another name for him. So you can kind of pick that apart and take what significance you will from that, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. That's how he begins the lecture. And then the last website that I'm going to include here that could be helpful for readers, just anyone, it has background information and each chapter broken down, is Lit Charts. And whenever I was reading this, I was a classroom teacher. I taught high school, so I had access to Lit Charts in its entirety. I think it's a premium subscription for anyone who doesn't have a certification, but I think it's worth even looking into because of how much it delves into the topics. So if you're struggling with understanding what happened chapter by chapter, you can pull this up and double check, or just as you go, consulting the different themes that are woven into the story. Overall, I hope that these resources prove helpful to you if you do look into them. If you haven't read the Brothers Karamazov, if you're just starting off, if you're interested in the story at all, any of these won't hurt. Especially if you like a more guided approach to reading, these would probably be in your best interest to just kind of consult on the side, just to double check where you're at with the story. Especially it can be confusing because it was written so long ago. Dostoevsky is one of my favorite authors to talk about. I find him so interesting, especially in the way that he views the human heart, and I think that shows in every piece of his writing. So I hope that this video was helpful to you, and if you have any other resources that you used whenever you were reading this, or just anything that you found, articles or interesting analysis on the story, let me know.